Welcome to the Confident Retirement Podcast. Is doing the most important things alone a good idea? How comfy are you with your choices when it comes to life's biggest decisions? What is real peace of mind with financial confidence, and how can you get it? Chris Fleming and Mark Peachy are the founders of LPF Advisors in Sarasota, Florida. On the show, they bring together the best and brightest minds to share with you how to have a more confident financial picture. They empower listeners with simple, common sense and financial wisdom. And now, here are your hosts from LPF Advisors.
Okay, I want to welcome everybody to the Confident Retirement Podcast. I'm your host here, as always, Chris Fleming. And today I have the honor of welcoming Jamie Berger to the podcast. She is the co-founder of Jacobs Berger, headquartered in New Jersey. Jamie practices exclusively in the area of family law, and she ascribes to the philosophy that in every difficult situation, there is potential value. You just need to believe this and then begin looking for it. Jamie, thanks for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, let's have some fun. So you have an interesting background. Why don't you take me through kind of how you got to where you are today and how you found your practice?
Sure, I would love to. Again, thank you for having me. So I have always practiced in the area of family law. I caught the bug early on in law school. I did a clinic in this area, and it was just something I was always really passionate about. I had the very fortunate circumstance to clerk for a wonderful judge here in New Jersey. I went to a big firm. I decided big firm life was interesting, but not for me. I wanted to practice my way, and that was really important. Even as a young associate at a firm, it was just really important that I could handle cases the way that I thought cases really needed to be handled. So I had a second fortunate circumstance to join with my now partner, Sarah Jacobs. She had left a large firm, also started a smaller practice. And in my particular area, being a boutique family law firm, you really can tailor the service to the client and just make sure that, you're really giving the client that well-rounded 360 view of their matter. And that was always something that was really important to Sarah and I. So I joined her practice, and we had a third partner. We had, what I affectionately call a business divorce, much like a regular divorce. It's, difficult, and you're, dealing with that. But, we've been partners since 2015, and it's wonderful.
Awesome. Sounds like a good, junction of like minds. I like that. So is there something maybe that you wish you knew when you started out that you know now? So maybe some advice for the younger you.
Yeah, I think for the younger me, it would really be to, not subscribe to anyone else's philosophy when you're dealing with, cases, and to really, approach the case creatively and uniquely. I think as a younger attorney, I felt, very much in a box. And now that, my practice has shifted from, I still do a fair amount of litigation, but it's shifted to more of a mediation model, more, settlement driven, really kind of coming into my own as an independent thinker, and not, you push a lot of paper as a young associate, and you're, not really thinking, about a case as strategically as you can. And so that's been, I wish I had been able to do more of that, as a younger associate, but, it's something that we really try to encourage in the associates that work in our office to just kind of, take ownership of cases and really be strategic about it.
Okay. So now you alluded to this earlier, but was there something either that occurred or an event, or maybe it's just a feeling that you had? How did you come to decide on the areas of focus for your practice?
I think I went to law school, and, you take all of the typical classes, and you tend to gravitate towards one particular thing. I started taking family law classes pretty extensively in my second and third year. There's a lot of really wonderful opportunities at the school that I went to in New York. There was a family law clinic. And it really, there's two sort of tracks. You're either going to kind of go the corporate route. And I knew that wasn't for me very early on, or you're going, for me, I wanted to do something that I was really passionate about. So that's, it was some, whether it was life experience that brought me there or something else, it's just always something that's been, in the back of my mind that I wanted to do. It's no case is the same. You're not doing the same thing every single day. So that was really important for me.
Okay. I like that. So then for your practice, maybe describe what an ideal client looks like?
I think about this a lot, because the divorce process is hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody goes into marriage thinking about their divorce, no matter if you're the person who wants it or not. But for me, an ideal client is somebody who wants to think about their case, and has the ability to sort of step back emotionally and think about, what maybe is the right forward movement for them. Somebody can sort of see past where they are in this tunnel and see the end of it, and, is open to resources to help them get there. One of the things that we do pretty regularly is, try to introduce our clients to people who can help them along the way, who do other things aside from what I do. So whether it's a financial advisor or trust and estates attorney or, real estate professionals, and a client that's open to that kind of help and resource is really an ideal client, because, I know what I know, but I'm not going to be the person rewriting your estate plan. Right. So, but, just somebody who's creative and open-minded and wants to resolve their case, because most cases really should resolve and do resolve. Yeah. But, someone who can kind of get past the emotion that's they're dealing with.
Okay.
It's not easy.
Yeah, no. And I want to ask you some questions about that a little bit later. So what do you think are the biggest misconceptions that clients maybe have about either what you do or when they first start working with you?
That's a good question. So I think, maybe one of the most common misconceptions is that, what happened to their friend or their colleague or their, cousin, sister's friend in some other state is what's going to happen to them. And so, the idea that, a lot of people, there's a lot of research on the internet, there's a lot of, people talk to people, the divorce rates are what they are. So, there's a lot of people who are in the same camp. And, I think when you come in with that notion that what happened to somebody else is inevitably going to happen to you, that's probably the most common thing that I find in talking to clients.
Okay. So then is there a current of common fears, not so much misconceptions, but fears they have or concerns about, because this is a life-changing thing, right? It's a big life transition. Maybe one of the most difficult things that they've ever gone through, probably is. What do you see as kind of a common thread with concerns and fears?
Yeah, I mean, the big one is financial security for sure, and your kids, right? Those are the two main things that people are fearful of. It's fear of the unknown. It's, am I going to be okay? Is there enough money in the pot? This is not what I saw my life looking like. How am I going to make this work? Am I going to be able to stay in my house? What's going to happen with respect to the kids? I go from seeing my children every single day. Now I'm splitting custody, maybe on a 50-50 schedule, maybe some other combination, but it's really, those are the two. And I think that's one of the reasons that we involve these other people, like a financial planner, for example, somebody who can come in and say, okay, here's what I see, and this is the financial picture. This is how we can make this work. And sometimes that really helps to quiet some of those inner dialogue that the client's having. And so we really, we dive deep, which is important, and understanding what their goals are for the future and letting them have the space to talk about those, with their divorce attorney is something that I think is important.
Okay. So this is just your opinion, but I'm curious, because you deal with this a lot. Are there some common behaviors that you see when people go through a divorce process that are destructive? Meaning, they're almost self-defeating. Do you follow? I mean, yes. I'd like your opinion on that.
Yeah, I do, and unfortunately, sometimes it's my client and, we have to have a pretty serious come to Jesus, as you will, about, things that are going on. But, we see common things we see are, types of financial manipulation, attempts to hide assets, squirreling away money, dividing up accounts, changing beneficiary from, without consulting the other side. I mean, those are things that can be really damaging in your divorce case. there's, again, these cases are highly emotional. So there's, levels of psychological warfare, that go on. And it's a shame because, it doesn't help anybody in the process. It's really something we try to counsel our clients on, that, if this is something you're doing, we may not be the right attorney for you, right? That's not, and we make those decisions, as we go. So I've sort of seen it all. I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and it's not an easy process for sure.
No. And I think you talked a little bit about on your website how you help to de-stress the process or the situation. So maybe talk about that a little bit on a high level on how you guys go about doing that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's our mantra and we stand by it. And it's, it flows from Sarah and I to everybody else in our firm in terms of, what can we do for our clients to try to take some of that stress that sits on their shoulder every day off, understanding that, the divorce process is never going to be free of stress, but, are there things that we can do? And so we have these pillars internally, which are, we communicate with our clients. We make sure that, there's a point of contact. We make sure they understand, how we're going to communicate with them in the most effective way that we can. They understand that, there's that early expectation in terms of, if you reach out to us, we will get back to you within X amount of time. If it's an emergency, here's the protocol for you to reach somebody, kind of thing. So that tends to take a lot of the stress away. I also think it's listening to your clients, understanding what their goals are, understanding, and trying to help them see down the road what life can look like, and that they're not always going to be stuck where they are. And, again, it's those strategic partnerships that we introduce to our clients. So it's, whether it could be a therapist, it can be, a therapist for their child who's going through something, just knowing that they have that resource is something that we really try to focus on.
Yeah, because it can be easy to just to focus on the legal aspect of it. And then all those other parts are probably as much or in some cases more important from an emotional standpoint. So that helps.
They are. And it makes my job easier. I always say, if you're paying me to be your therapist, I'm not qualified to do it, but I'm also, you're paying too much money. Right. And I don't take insurance. So, it's like, but making sure that you have somebody to talk to is so important.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's switch gears just a little bit. You you reference on your website a little bit about that you do strategic planning sessions, and these are different than maybe a traditional like consultation. So maybe give us the nuanced difference between that and why you've chosen to call them that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sort of flows with the way that we approach all cases. We really do dive deep. We view ourselves as a strategic partner with our clients. And so having that early conversation and the way that we have it, before you even decided to hire us, we want to make sure that we're giving you a preview into the service that you're going to get from our firm, but also, diving deep down into what the issues are that are important to you, right? So that's why it's not just, we're not the type of firm where you call and you can get an attorney on the phone for 15 minutes to, kind of give you the ins and outs of the law. That's not, I could try to razzle dazzle you with everything I know about the law, but that's not really what those sessions are about. It's about really understanding, what's important to a client, what the confines of the law are generally, and just kind of getting down to, really goal setting and what the client wants at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I guess if you spend the time to do the goal setting at the end, then when things get tough or you have things that don't go quite the way that you want to, you can always kind of reference back to that guiding star, that North Star, saying, here's what we're ultimately trying to accomplish. Let's keep the eye on the prize and get to the other side.
And it helps. I mean, it helps to know that, early on in the process. And I think a lot of times attorneys, especially divorce attorneys, miss that step. And they miss the opportunity with a client to get personal and understand what really is important to them. Because at the end of the day, you're hiring me to help you with a problem that you have. So let's figure out what that problem is. Obviously, the problem is divorce, but it's not just that. It's, there's nuances. And so understanding that early on is really important. Okay,
great. I like how you said that. So let's switch gears here a little bit. What do you kind of see as the biggest opportunity for your practice going forward?
Mediation, especially, in the last few years, we were focused pretty consistently on it prior to, the world shutting down as it did.
Yeah.
But, it really is such a, alternative dispute resolution, whether it be mediation, arbitration, collaborative work. These are areas that, we as attorneys can really help our clients, whether I'm mediating or it's a litigation client of mine that I'm pushing towards mediation. Unfortunately, cases don't move smoothly through the court system. A lot of times there are inefficiencies, and as much as the judges try, they're somewhat handcuffed, whether there's not enough judges or there's just too many cases. It's challenging. So I really, in the right set of circumstances, that's the avenue that I push clients. And it's really something our firm is focused pretty heavily on.
Okay. So, and I'm curious then, I'm not expecting you to have like the hard numbers, but what do you think, like in the last 2-3 years, the percentage that have gone through the legal system versus maybe that have mediated? I mean, is it half and half? Is there what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to my practice. We've certainly shifted. I would say we're probably close to a 50-50 spread on mediation versus litigation. And litigation takes all forms. It doesn't mean that, just because you're not, you're litigating your case, it doesn't mean that you're actually going to trial. It just means that, you're not necessarily, availing yourself of strictly the mediation route. Right. But, at least in New Jersey, I think the percentages now are 98% of all cases actually settle. A very small percentage of cases go to trial in the family part in New Jersey, but it's just a matter of when, some settle in the courthouse the day of trial and some settle within, the early stages. So the spread is somewhere in between.
It's all over the place. Okay.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle.
Right. So we talked about your biggest opportunity. On the flip side of that, what do you think the biggest challenge is to your business right now? Maybe an obstacle that you and your partner want to overcome or want to work on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we're in an area of law, obviously the economy is fluctuating. We're in an area of law that, I certainly wouldn't say we're recession proof. We're maybe recession resistant. Unfortunately for a lot of people, when finances are tight and things are tense in the house, that can be the last match thrown into a flame. But, just dealing, as a business owner, dealing with, increased costs and all of that, those are things that, my financial brain thinks about all day. So, but, just managing a firm and making sure that, we're providing our attorneys and our staff the opportunities that we want to, provide for them, both financially and personally. Our firm is built very much like a family. So, making sure that, we are giving, our staff and attorneys the opportunity to, have the flexibility that they have and, debating whether keeping, a hybrid schedule versus a remote schedule, so those are challenges we face.
It's all that running the business stuff.
Yeah.
If you could just practice the law and work with clients, this would be easy, right?
Right,
but then there's all that other stuff that goes along with it.
They didn't teach you any of that in law school.
I know. I've heard that a lot. Yeah. I went through that too. Okay. So maybe if people want to get in touch with you, they want to learn more about your practice or you specifically, what's the best way for them to do that, Jamie?
So you can look at our website, which is really robust. It's jacobsberger.com.
Okay.
You can certainly reach out, call the office, and all the information is right there. I have a LinkedIn profile. We have a social media profile where we're constantly posting little tidbits. So, it's Jacobs Berger LLC and all of it is right there.
Okay. All your info's there. You can capture it and learn more about you. Awesome. So Jamie, I want to thank you for being here with me today. This has been a really good conversation. I'm happy that I spent this time with you.
Me too.
And I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the Confident Retirement Podcast brought to you by LPF Advisors, where we hope to bring the confidence of everyday people on the road to retirement to another level, one show at a time. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Be well. Take care. Thanks again, Jamie.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Confident Retirement Podcast with Chris and Mark from LPF Advisors. For more information on them and retiring confidently, please visit lpfadvisors.com. If your ears are pleased and your mind is now at ease, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.